Thank you for coming to my talk. I appreciate it. My name is Jon Brown. I'm the Mac Admin and Information Systems Security Officer at Montage Marketing Group. I'm really glad to be here. Some of you may know me. I've been a Mac admin for many years. I've worked in the space as a consultant, as a business owner, and most recently moved into the cybersecurity sphere. I'm excited to talk about Expect today. So we're going to be doing some light scripting. If you want to follow along, you certainly can. All of the scripts and all the things that we're going to be doing today will be available to download right at the end. I'll put a QR code up there and you'll be zapped over to the GitHub repo. So don't feel like you need to sort of follow along, but I will be talking about Expect and how to use it to automate a lot of really interesting workflows, and we'll be talking about some of the case studies and how I used it to automate some deployments of rather complicated software for some clients that needed some interesting workarounds. So let's dive into what Expect is and how we can use it in our day-to-day. So what is Expect? Expect is an extension to the TCL scripting language written by Don Leaves. The program automates interactions with programs that expose a text terminal interface. So anytime you've ever gone into the terminal and you've interacted with some sort of script or installation where it's asked you questions and you've had to tediously type in the word yes or no or Y or A and then press enter, this Expect shell gives you the opportunity to pre-program those responses around those command prompts. He wrote it in 1990, Don did, for the Unix platform, and it's been open source and available ever since. It's part of Microsoft Windows and obviously Mac OS. And this is Don's LinkedIn page. Highly recommend checking it out. He's highly entertaining on LinkedIn, and he works over at NIST. He's doing a lot of really interesting things over there, but of course, like, he's the inventor of the Expect language, and I just like to give credit to people who actually made this stuff, right, back in the 90s. So really kind of interesting. All right. Expect is a tool for automating interactive applications. These applications interactively prompt and expect a user to enter keystrokes in response. By using Expect, you can write simple scripts to automate these interactions. And using automated interactive programs, you can be able to solve problems that you really never thought of before. You can interact with things like telnet, FTP, the password command, fsck, rlogin, and other such command prompts in the Unix environment. All right, let's dive into our most exciting section of everyone's favorite terminal, the man page, so that we can understand a few of the commands that we're going to be using in the script. So let's dive into it. So this is a summarized view of some of the flags and the overall functionality of Expect. So if we look at the commands, we'll see that we have the ability to close a connection to a current process. We have the ability to debug a process. We have the ability to disconnect a session and exit from a forked process, and spawn. Spawn is actually going to be really important because what spawn is going to be doing in the script is it's going to be actually running scripts within the Expect framework. So if you have a script and you're using Expect, Expect is going to spawn that script and then pass variables to it to enter into the places where those command prompts will be expected in the script. Expect itself obviously is the binary, and then send gives you the ability to send flags. So send is actually the command, and you can send flags via that command. So you can send the S flag, which will send the output of that string in a slow manner, and the H flag will force the output of the string that you use to be typed in a somewhat human fashion, meaning you can actually program the speed at which each letter in the word it comes out as, so it looks like a human is actually typing in the shell, which is actually pretty interesting. All right, continued on. These continued flags are all part of the send. So C simplifies the command. D provides a diagnostic. -F specifies a file to read from. -I prompts commands interactively. So if you wanted to actually interact with the prompt using expect, you can. -B reads a file line by line, and -V prints the version of expect. So if you just do expect -V, it will tell you the version of expect on your computer. Expect is located at user bin expect, which is where most of the other binaries on macOS. If you're trying to find it, you can always type in where is expect, and it will tell you the full path of expect on your system. So if you're on Linux or any other operating system, that might be helpful for you. In order to use expect, you have to have an interactive script or prompt to use expect with. Expect allows you to write prompts around those user prompts, and user prompts, specifically in bash scripts or shell scripts, for example, are noted typically as read reply variables. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. All right, so here we have two scripts. I have it separated by a line so you can kind of tell there's two scripts here. We have the test.sh script, which is a shell script, a bash script. So we've got bin bash at the top, and we have echo, enter your name, and then read reply. So that's the entirety of the script. So if you were to run this script, it would prompt you to enter your name, and then you would type in your name and press enter, and that would be the end of the script. The expect script down below ends in .exp. That's how you know it's an expect script. And we see that it's user bin expect. The .f flag here is telling us that we're opening up a file. We're setting the timeout to -1 so that when we are interacting, it doesn't go to sleep on us. We're spawning the test.sh script. So that's the script up above. We're actually going to run that script. We're going to expect, enter your name, and then we're putting an enter /r at the end. And that's in quotes. And then we're sending I am Jon, which is the response that we want to respond with. Again, with that sort of enter /r, that's the enter key. Notice that I'm using 2 dashes after send. So if you are using 2 dashes, that means you're passing a string using the send command. So when we run this expect script, if the test script and the expect script are in the same directory, the expect script will automate the output of the test.sh script. And of course, it's extremely important to add expect end of file, the EOF, at the bottom of the expect.exp script. If you don't add that, then it will not actually run the script properly because it won't reach the end of the file. All right, so let's take a look at this in action. All right, so I'm in a demo folder. I've got the test.sh script. And it's really just the exact same script that I had before. So if I run this script, it's prompting me to type in my name. And then that's it. That's the end of the script. So if I edit the script, I can add other questions.
Do you need the text bigger?
Sure. Bigger. Is that helpful? Is that better? Okay, cool. Thanks. So I'm just going to ask, what is your phone number? And read reply. And now if I run this, it's asking for my name and then my phone number. So it's just that simple to create a script that is interactive. So now if I want to run the expect version of the script, well, if I look at that script, let's just take a look at it. I've got some comments in here because we're going to go through these in a second. But essentially what we have here is the exact same script. Set timeout to -1, spawning the test.sh script. We're expecting enter your name. We're sending I am Jon, and then we have the expect end of file. We did add another question in here, so we have to add that, expect. What is your phone? And then send. So now if I save this, it should actually fail because I didn't actually match the question exactly. So that's the whole point of expect, is that it has to match the question exactly, because if it doesn't match, then it's going to just default back to asking you to interact with the script. So as you can see here, I'm running the expect script, but now I'm forced to manually interact with the script. So let's just take a look at the first script real quick. Oops. And it's, what is your phone number? So let's edit the expect script. Instead of what is your phone, I will change this to match exactly. And now when I run the expect script, I get the proper pre-filled output. So now when I'm automating these commands, it's properly passing all the information that I have in the expect fields. Now if we go back to the expect script real quick, and I want to look at two of the commented out sections. So when we were looking at the man page, there were two flags that we were looking at. One was the -H and the -S. So I do want to talk about that real quick. So if you want to use the send as human or send slowly, then you need to set those variables first. So if I want to set send as human, not only do I have to change the flag from --, which signifies a string here, I do have to change the dash to H, which signifies that I'm now passing it in human form. But in order for that human flag to work, you have to have a send human variable, and there have to be values inside of these brackets up above. The first two numbers are the average interval of time in seconds that the keystrokes will be used at the beginning and at the word ending to simulate subtle pauses throughout the string. So you can actually change these numbers and you can simulate different speeds of text input based on your desired output. So now if we run this script, now I will say that macOS tends to not do the typing by character as cool as Linux or other operating systems. So as you saw there, it just kind of delayed the entire string instead of delaying each character one by one. And I did try pretty hard to try to mimic the behavior of the expected behavior, which is what you should see is a delayed key typing of each letter on macOS, but I was unable to replicate it, so I'm assuming that that's just the default behavior of macOS. But I did want to talk about it since I brought it up and since it is in the man page. It is kind of a more interesting feature of expect. And if you're applying this not just to macOS but to other operating systems like Linux or Windows, the way that this will actually display on screen will be different than on macOS. So I just wanted to point that out, but I also just wanted to point out that if you're going to use those flags, you do need to first set those variables in order for those flags to actually work. Otherwise, you'll get an error within your script. All right. Moving on. All right, so we talked a little bit about variables. So let's dive into those real quick. So just like in the script that we saw before, we have some variables up here. So in this script, we're setting some variables. We have name, and I have my name pre-programmed as a variable, and I have age pre-programmed as a variable. And you can see here that name, the variable name is just name, all caps, and the variable age is the word age, all caps. And down below, you can see that I'm sending the variable name with the $, and I'm sending the variable age with the $. The second, or the third rather, variable is phone. And we're actually going to pass this as an argument. So this is a variable, but we're not coding this variable in the file. What we're going to do is we're going to pass this variable, as you can see on this screen, just past the line there. If we were to run this script, it would be expect_var.exp and then the phone number. So we're passing the phone number as an argument after the script. And what this line is saying is look at the arguments at the first index. So in this case, the first index is 0, 0 being the first position of the index. So you can do some really interesting things here because you can actually pass variables right in the command string as arguments, or you can embed them right into the file as hard-coded elements. All right, so, and of course, always, always, always put in the file at the end of your script. All right, let's take a look at this demo. All right. All right, so we've got a text, a shell script, and it's asking, who is this, how old are you, and what's your phone number? It's an interactive script. It's asking 3 questions, very simple, nothing fancy going on here. We're going to use expect to interact with that. Let's go ahead and go into the first script, expect var.exp, and it's the same script that we had up on screen earlier. So what we're doing here is we're sending the variable name, we're sending the variable age, and we're sending the variable phone, and the variable phone is expected to be passed as an argument, as we said before. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this. Oops. No, I don't want to enable dictation. There we go. So expect var.exp and then phone number, and then boom, it automates the entire thing. So pretty slick. Now what if I wanted to automate or iterate through many things at once? Well, of course you can do that with a loop, and just kind of give you an example of what that would look like as well. So here's an example of using expect in a loop. Now this loop is hard-coded with a counter where we're looking at looping through 2 elements, because we are starting with 1 and we're ending at 3, so it's going to loop twice. And we are going to spawn the expect file. We're going to pass in the variable phone as an argument, and then we are going to increment by 1. So that's what INCRI stands for in this very simple loop structure. So if I run this, let's do it so that it's easier to see the output. You can actually see that it's spawning the script twice and it's passing in the variables twice. So if you have something that's repeatable and you need to do it more than once, let's just say you have a series of computers, you need to reset passwords, you're pushing the script out to multiple systems, you can see where a looping system could come in handy, or if you're on a single system and there's multiple accounts, you could modify the script to iterate through a home directory or some other looping mechanism. So I did want to show you that really briefly. All right. Let's get into some more practical applications of how I used it, though. Alrighty. All right, data loader. So I don't know if anyone here has ever used Salesforce Data Loader, but it's a Salesforce program that runs in Java, and it gives you the ability to interact with Salesforce through a Java application. The data loader application itself is quite difficult to deploy. Here are some of the challenges that we had with it. So again, you have to install Java first. Java is pretty straightforward. It comes prepackaged. So if you have an MDM, you can download the package. Package is signed, so that's an easy deployment. Just make sure that you deploy that first if you're going to be installing data loader. The second problem, though, that we had is data loader comes down as a command file, which is not signed or notarized. So whenever you try to open it, it gives people a warning saying, hey, this is an unsigned, untrusted program, and it freaks a lot of people out. And so you have to pass a command to trust that binary or that command file. So that's kind of annoying. That's what I mean by we have to remove the quarantine flag there. So yeah, let's take a look at what data loader looks like and how that interaction kind of. So this script is just kind of a taste for how we went around it. So this is a bash script that shows you how we sort of handled the situation. So the script itself runs after the installation of Java. We make a directory, we download data loader, we unzip it, we cd into the directory, we run the quarantine flag to unquarantine the install.command file. We wait 5 seconds. Then we run expect around it. We automate the responses. And I'll do a demo of this. So I'm kind of flying through it. We'll send all the variables, and then we'll clean up the process afterwards. So that's the approach that we took in terms of automating the entire process. And then, of course, we made an uninstall script to reset the system if we ever had to reinstall it. All right, let's take a look at that in action, actually. All right, so you can see we've got data loader. Let's actually open up the demo 3 folder so we can see what we have in it. Okay, so we've downloaded data loader, and we have this install.command file. And this is the brains of the installation method for data loader. It's kind of annoying. If I zoom out just a little bit, and I double click on this file, it launches into the installation of data loader, where it starts asking me a whole bunch of questions in a super annoying fashion. So, do you want to install data loader in the current folder? Okay, sure, yes. And it does its thing. It's doing the installation. Do you want to create a desktop shortcut? Yeah, sure. Sure, okay, another shortcut. Yep, why not? So now it's doing its thing, it's installing data loader, and boom, now I have data loader on my computer. It's super aggressive, it pops up in my face. And how do I deploy this to 1,000 people, right? It's super annoying. Don't want my users having to interact with it. So let's take a look at how we automated this process. So let's go ahead and quit data loader. Zoom out. Okay, so process completed. So I'm just going to run the uninstall script, which is going to reset data loader. My uninstall script just resets everything. It deletes all the files, it deletes the shortcuts, it deletes the downloaded junk that data loader puts on the computer, just kind of puts it back to a known good state. And again, I'll have all these scripts on the GitHub repo so you can play around with it as a real-world application. So let's take a look at the install script real fast. And I'm going to make this window smaller. Come on, there we go. All right. So we're going to create the directory. We're going to curl data loader to that directory. We're going to unzip it. We're going to go into that directory. We're going to unquarantine, and then we're going to pass in our variables. Now, look at what we're doing. We're starting with a bash prompt and command shell, and then we're segueing right into user bin expect here. So see how we have these 2 little tiny arrows and then EOF? This indicates that we're switching mid-script from bash into expect. So now we're mixing the 2 binaries into one file. So we're not spawning multiple files at this point. We're taking all the elements from expect and the commands in shell, and we're mixing them into one single bash file. So super helpful. Now we are, of course, spawning the command file that we did download, so we are still passing that spawn command, and we are expecting, do you want to install data loader in the current folder? And look how specific we have to be. We have to have the exact phrasing. We have to escape the spaces. We have to escape the space after the no in order for it to actually line up perfectly. We're sending no in this case, and we're actually sending a completely separate enter, because when I tried to do this, it simply didn't actually work the way that I expected, which is ironic. So I ended up having to break it up into two send commands. So sending the word no and then sending the actual return key action as two separate commands is what the command file is actually looking for in this case. Provide the installation folder. Here again, we're just passing the enter key because I'm good with the default. So there is no expected prompt. Do you want to create a desktop shortcut? The answer is yes. And then I'm passing a hard return. Do you want to create a shortcut in the applications folder? Yes, hard returned. Expect end of file terminates the expect. EOF tells the script that we're done with this section. Right? We started with EOF and we're ending with EOF. So now we're done with this section, and now we're back to just our regular script where we're removing the directories and the folders that we started with. All right, so let's see this in action. All right, so we're downloading data loader. This better work because I tested this multiple times. I was checking to see if Java is installed. I definitely installed it. Do you want to install data loader? Yep, it's passing in that first variable. Provide the installation folder. We're just pressing enter here. It takes a second for it to get the expected value. Pass that, great. Data loader will be installed. Do you want a desktop shortcut? We're going to pass in yes. Perfect. Applications folder shortcut, we're going to pass in yes. Again, I'm not typing anything. Yes. All right, so now everything is created. Data loader installation is quitting. It didn't pop up, which is great. I didn't want it to. Folder shortcuts should be on the desktop. Let's just zoom out and make sure. There it is. Data loader is on the desktop. Data loader icon. Let's see if it's in the applications folder. Might not be there yet, but let's check the applications folder. Yep, there it is, data loader. So it's everywhere we wanted it to be. We passed in the variable. So all I have to do to deploy this at scale is upload this script into Jamf, Monkey, whatever your MDM of choice is, whatever your scripting, tool of choice is, and boom. It's going to download this tool. It's going to make this command file trusted. It's going to pass in all the variables. It's not going to pop up data loader in everyone's face. And it only took, like 3 hours for me to get this working. So just wanted to show you how cool and powerful it can be to use a tool like this. So let's jump back into the presentation real fast. Email. Let's do the presentation. All right, auto package, another great application for expect. How so, you might ask? Let's talk about it. So there's a really great script out there called auto package review and run that I use quite a bit. So auto package review and run was created to automate the process of, and you can get to that script, by the way, by clicking, by scanning that QR code. was created to automate the process of trusting recipes that you have in your auto package catalog. So by default, when you have recipes, you either have to create local copies of them or you have to manually trust them whenever there's a new version change or whatever. So this script iterates through your catalog of auto package recipes, and it asks you questions like, hey, this is untrusted, do you want to trust this package? And then it will automatically, based on how you answer, pass the appropriate trust command to that recipe and allow it to automatically build for you, so that it's quite cool, it's quite interactive. But if you've got a catalog of, I don't know, like 50 packages, it's kind of annoying to sit there and go, yes, yes, type yes, 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 yes. So Expect is a really great application for automating around certain scripts like this. I will say, however, just a caveat, that you should always verify and double check the authenticity of anything before you automate pre-filled answers into any kind of trust verification. So just putting that out there. If you're going to use Expect with auto package, try using them with recipes that you own and maintain. So those are my only sort of like words of warning. If you automatically trust a bad package, and don't come and find me or hunt me down. This is my disclaimer saying Expect is a great automation tool, but you still have the responsibility of using it wisely. All right, so let's just take a look briefly before we head into the demo of what this script does. So again, like I said, I'm not going to go into it super exhaustively, but the script recursively finds your recipe list, and then it asks you questions like, do you want to trust? So these are just different sections of the script that I wanted to highlight so that you can understand the types of responses that the script is looking for. So in this script, we can type the word yes, sure, definitely, or why. So the author of this script was super creative in terms of the values that we could pass in terms of affirmative responses. And then here you can see that when we answer in the affirmative, it's going to update the trust info for the recipe and automatically run that recipe. And then this would be how we would automate that process. So we would run an expect command or a file. We would spawn that Python script. We would expect multiple different prompts. We're expecting, do you trust these changes? And search GitHub auto package repos for a star. So remember how I said we have to match exactly or we'll fail. You can actually use wildcards to automatically match on most of the string. So if the string is mostly unique, you can put a star in the string, and if it's close enough, expect will match on it automatically. So there are some ways around that sort of default. In this example, I'm using the expect an array of expects. So as you can see here, I'm passing an array instead of just having send commands, send and then send. I'm passing expect, and then I'm passing the two different prompts, and then I'm passing the expected values that I want. So I'm sending yes and no. And then I'm using the expect underscore continue to automate the continuation of the script. So this is a more advanced utilization of the script because, again, I don't want further delays. This is just another way of doing it. The previous way that we saw with data loader, I didn't use an array. I could have gone this way, but I did want to show you two different approaches in terms of using expect. So you can just send commands one after another, or you can create an expect array, and then you can iterate through all of the questions, and you can send your responses, and then you can continue to step through those, and then you can call the end of file at the end of that array. So just another way of using it. All right, let's take a look at auto package and that application. All right, so I'm actually using auto package and auto packager just to make the demo easier. How many people here use auto package, auto packager? Awesome. It's a great tool. Love it. So I have some recipes and repos set up here. And I'm going to go into demo 4. Okay. So here's my auto package review and run. And then I have a run.sh, which really should be run.exp if we're doing this correctly. All right, so now I've got my two files. So I've got my expect file and I've got my auto package review and run file. If I run my auto package review and run file right now, it's going to tell me that everything is up to date and I have no packages in my recipe list, which is true. If I look at my recipe list, it's completely blank here. I have nothing selected. So let's select a recipe. All right, let's select something that's not going to kill the network. Let's do Acorn. That's a good one. So I've selected Acorn. I've filtered out just by package, PKG, because I don't want to build these for Monkey. I want to build these just a straight up package. So I'm just filtering by PKG. So now I have that selected. Now by selecting that, it's automatically updated my recipe list. And now when I run that auto package review and run script, it's going to tell me that, hey, we found a package in your recipe list. Do you want to trust these changes? I say yes. So now it's processing the package file, it's trusting it, and it's building the package. Boom. So now I'm done. I have the package. So what if I want to automate that? Okay, so let's uncheck Acorn and let's pick something else like airfoil. All right, let's take a look at the expect file. All right, so here's our expect file. Again, I'm not quite sure exactly what it's going to ask me. It might ask me either of these two questions, so I'm passing this as an array of potential questions, and let's see what happens. So it found that airfoil. It says, do you trust these changes? I passed Y for yes. It automatically accepted the trust, and then boom, it created the package for me. So if I selected 10 packages and then ran this expect script, it would automatically loop through that recipe list automatically feed in the Y, automatically trust and build those packages without me having to sit there and type the letter Y every single time. All right. Let's go back to the presentation. All right. Final section. I'm not going to demo this part for obvious reasons. So again, deeply regret writing the script, but it's in the repo in case you want to try using it. There's multiple reasons why I regret writing it. One, I don't condone putting passwords in scripts, so don't ever do that. When I wrote this script, I was a very, very new and young Mac admin, and I decided it was a great idea to reset everyone's firmware password using a script, and it did not go super well, as you're probably going to find out here in a second, but that's annoying. Oops. No, I don't want to join a call in the middle of my presentation. Wow, that was fun. All right. And I just lost my presentation. Yeah. There we go. All right, so the challenges that I faced, even though it's not a great idea, we have to assume that we know the password to the computers that we're resetting the password to. Changing the firmware requires, like I said, it requires you to know it. You must then enter the command for the firmware password to change it. You must then enter the firmware password twice to confirm it. And then, so long as everyone has the same password, then it can be scripted. If we have multiple passwords in the mix, then it can be scripted, but it's really far more complicated. And that's the scenario that I found myself in. I had some computers with firmware password A, some computers with firmware password B, and maybe some computers with firmware password unknown. I had no clue maybe what their firmware password was. And the directive was, well, let's try to standardize them onto a single firmware password. So I thought, well, I expect is my best friend here. Let's give it a shot. So here's the script that I wrote. And as you can see here, we're spawning, not a file, but we're actually spawning the command firmware password. And we're telling firmware password to set the password, and we're expecting these prompts. So again, these are the prompts that firmware password will ask you for. It's going to ask you for your current firmware password, and then it's going to ask you to put in a new password and then confirm your new password. So your password would go in the first variable, your old one. You're sending the new password in the second one and the third one. Problem with this script and what I did by mistake was I added a tiny little space at the end of my password, and that bricked the firmware password on every computer that received the script, which was about 50% of my fleet at the time. For the computers that I didn't know the password to, maybe it was password A or password B, I created a different version of the script. And in this version of the script, it uses expect, does the same thing. It spawns the firmware password, but it checks various different combinations of passwords. So if password 1, where it says expect enter password, if it fails, then it will try a secondary password. And if that fails, then it exits the script. If it succeeds on password 1, then it proceeds with passing 2 variables to complete the cycle. If it succeeds on password 2, then it continues to reset the password using the new password. Again, if you lock your computer using this script, you do so at your own risk. It's on the GitHub repo. Not going to demo this part. Only because I would have to do it on my actual hardware. I can't do this in a VM. So, outcome, yeah, 15% bricked workstations. All right. So this is the best part, I think, of the demo. Auto expect. Now let's shift gears a little bit. And let's talk about auto expect. So auto expect is not expect. It's an entirely different utility that Don included in the expect binary. However, this does not ship natively with Mac OS. So if you want to use auto expect, you can use it. It's a great utility, but you cannot use it out of the box. So what does that mean? Well, let's dive into it first. Auto expect is an application that you can use to create an expect script or an expect application. So it automatically will create the expect script for you. So all the scripts that I wrote today, or all the scripts that you saw me writing today, can be completely automated and completely written for you using auto expect. So what auto expect does is you use auto expect, the binary, you pass in the script that you want it to watch you interact with. It sees how you interact with that script, and then it exports a final EXP version of the script that you can then use as a starting point for your expect script. So it totally automates the entire process of actually creating the script for you. Again, it's not pre-installed, so you have to install it with Homebrew, and I'm going to show you what that process looks like. All right, so if you haven't installed Homebrew before, that's the command to do it. Once you install Homebrew, you install expect by by typing brew install expect, and then once you have expect installed using Homebrew, you can type man auto expect, because this version of expect will actually come with auto expect, which gives you the ability to automatically create expect scripts. And once you have auto expect, we can go back to some of our previous examples, like data loader, for example. And we can run auto expect, we can pass in that install command, and then it will watch you install data loader, and then it will give you an install.exp file at the end. And then once you open up that file, it gives you this, an exact copy of what I had written tediously and took me 3 hours. I wish I had known about auto expect before I spent all that time. So that's what this made me want to give this talk. So final demo, let's take a look at auto expect. All right. So before I do this demo, I'm going to go back into demo 3 and just clean up, 3. I'm just going to remove data loader. I'm going to go back into demo 5, which is just a file with some commands so that I wouldn't mess it up in the middle of my presentation. I'm just going to cut and paste the install command for Homebrew into this much bigger prompt here so you guys can see it. Oops. Anyone here new to Homebrew? People used Homebrew before? New to Homebrew? It's a great utility. It installs binary packages on your Mac. There's actually a gentleman giving a presentation on a utility that he wrote called Workbrew, kind of an interesting concept. Check out his recording. But the idea here is that you can start to manage packages installed by Homebrew. So think of Homebrew in the same way that you think of self-service for Monkey or Jamf. It's a utility that gives you and your users the ability to install third-party applications via the command line. So again, we're just installing expect. So now I have homebrew installed. I'm just going to use the brew command, brew, install, expect. Okay. Nuts. Let's see. Oh yes, I have to do this part. Thank you. Do I have to exit the shell, restart it?
You might have to do lines 4 also, but you won't have to exit the shell.
Okay. So I have to run these 2 commands. Got it. So including this entire thing?
So 2 separate.
2 separate ones, starting with the word echo. Oh, with the parentheses. Got it.
That whole command.
And this. Okay. Let's run it. Got it. All right, so now I'm installing expect. Thank you for that. All right, so now that we have an expect, we can do man auto expect. And now we can see here that we have auto expect installed on the computer. So now that we have auto expect installed on the computer, we can run auto expect. And I can go back to demo 3 where I had that data loader example. Data loader, and I'm just going to drag in that command file and drop it right in there. And it's going to just walk me through the installation of data loader again, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to type in the word yes. Sure, yes, yes. And it's going to install data loader again on my computer. But what's going to happen once I'm done and data loader is installed, boom, I go back here and we have a script.exp file kind of waiting for me on the desktop. So if I edit this script, you can see this is the script that was generated by auto expect. It's adding in a lot of interesting things. Hey, look, there's a little message from Don here. Awesome. Thanks, Don. So it actually puts all the information from data loader, including that splash screen, which is kind of interesting. It pre-programs all of my output messages, and it automatically puts in all the expected variables. So now if I run this, let's go ahead and just demo 3, uninstall to clean this up. Let's run. I think I probably need to move this into the folder where the command file is probably, so let's do that. All right, so now it's automating the process of installing data loader. Again, I didn't have to do anything. It's automatically doing it for me. And again, auto expect was my friend. It did everything here for me. Boom, done. So if you're ever in a process where you need to create a script and you don't want to go through the tedious process of creating an expect script from scratch like we did at the beginning and understanding how to do it manually, auto expect is your friend. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. If you want to download the files, you can do so via that QR code. And look forward to any feedback that you have for me about this talk. I really appreciate you guys coming out on the last day. Questions? Yes. Let's see if I can. You ready? Sure. Bad throw.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had never heard of auto expect before, and that was really cool. I definitely try to use expect as a very, very last resort. If I can figure out a way to set an environment variable or set a command flag somewhere, even if it's not documented, to get around the whole problem. That's my preference. But yeah, auto expect. I think that will save me a lot of time and hassle in the future. So that's very cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, it certainly was something that when I saw auto expect, I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta tell people about this because it was one of those cool factors for me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
With auto expect, can you use interactive commands, or does it have to be a script?
Any prompt that is where you're passing an interactive shell. So if you're using telnet or FTP or the password command like PASWD or whatever, you can use auto expect and then pass that command, and then it will record your responses.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. In the back.
Yeah. When the expect script is running, does it lock out user input, or is there a way to lock out user input? Say somebody just sees the pause and starts hammering their keyboard?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that because most of the time when I was using expect, I was sending those commands down through an MDM, so they weren't actually seeing anything. There is an interactive mode in the expect man page, which basically states that if you use the interactive flag, it gives users the ability to interact with expect. So my guess would be that it does block to some degree user input. But let's give it a shot. I mean, we can just run that last expect script, and then I can hammer on my keyboard and see what happens. I mean, I'm typing. It's not doing anything. Do. I mean, it's not blocking me from doing anything, but I don't know if it's actually cares about my input, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. Any other questions? Did you get it to work? Oh, nice. And it did the whole delay and, well, I don't know what's wrong with my computer then. Maybe it's the VM thing, but I'd love to see it in action. That's great. Cool. Any other questions? Well, thanks for, okay, yeah.
Is there options within expect scripts to leave room for user input if you want to automate pieces, but also then leave room for human intervention?
I think that's what the interactive flag is for.
Okay.
So yeah, if you look at the man page, there's an interactive flag where you can actually say, I want to send this as interactive. So I think if you use the -I flag, I believe, check out the man page for that. And you can also connect with me and we can talk offline about it. But I think there is a use case for that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. Well, thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Enjoy lunch, and I hope you guys have a safe trip back to wherever you're going.